Hello again, and welcome back to the Ostrichtechnique podcast, the only episode where you can stick your head in the sand to try and avoid inter-team conflict. I'm one of your hosts, Ananth.
And I am your other host, Chris.
Chris, how's it going? We made it to Act 3.
Phase 3.
Phase 3, geez, yeah. Well, Act 3 of the Infinity Saga, but yes, Phase 3.
Yes, we have. And this is really like peak Marvel, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, this is really Marvel firing on all cylinders. And I think that this movie really sort of encapsulates all of that in one 2.5 hour package, which is just like, I don't know. I had a great time watching this again, Chris. I forgot how good this was. I knew it was good, but like, I was really genuinely like impressed with all of the sort of connections and everything. Like, this really was like just a feast for the MCU fan, if you knew what you were going for.
I mean, it's not only just a really good movie on its own, but it is so crucial to the rest of the MCU, and it's just such, I would say it's probably the most ambitious, or one of the most ambitious MCU movies outside of Avengers movies. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of Avengers in this movie, but it is a Captain America movie at its heart.
Yeah, but, no, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's that balancing act, which I think is so impressive, that it really focuses on Captain America throughout all of this, even though this is basically an Avengers 2.5 movie.
Yeah.
They really balance everything so well. And I think, again, what I keep coming back to is like that whole discussion that we had about why Phase 4 maybe isn't working as much. If you guys haven't checked that episode out, do check out that one. It's a good mini episode. But the fact that basically this is completely built around the character relationships each of these folks have. It's not built on anything else, really. It's really all of the root of the problems in this movie are just the fact that like people have their own sort of developments, and each of their character developments have led them to their viewpoints, which are totally understandable. And especially for an MCU fan, you know where each of these people are coming from. So you empathize with them, even though you may not necessarily agree with one side or the other, which I think this movie just does a really, really good job of. But yeah, I mean, do you have any other thoughts, I guess, coming into this movie, or like if you remember from when this movie was coming out, Chris?
I do remember when this movie was coming out. I was super, super excited, along with a lot of people. I mean, at this point, the MCU was really on a upward trajectory.
Yeah,
obviously, all the different rumors and leaks, I guess specifically around Spider-Man, how the deal had gotten done before this movie to include Spider-Man.
No, we'll definitely talk about Spider-Man for sure.
But just, I mean, the storyline alone, the Civil War storyline is a pretty iconic and relatively new storyline, but it is a great comic storyline that I was really excited to see how it played out in the MCU.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, I think there was a lot of excitement for this one. I think the lead up to it, obviously, they had the Phase 3 was really announced in that sort of big, back in the day, that El Capitan theater announcement where they went through the entire slate, really. And part of this was they teased us that it was Serpent Society, and then that it wasn't Serpent Society. So the fact that it's really, I mean, it was just a really well done sort of lead up to it. Again, I think it really shows Marvel at the height of its powers, where every movie was just sort of building up to like the big thing, which was, of course, Infinity War and Endgame, which we didn't know what they were called at the time. We just knew that they were called the Avengers 3 and 4, and that they were going to be related to Thanos in some way, because that's what they'd been building up to all that while. But just, yeah, I remember the excitement and anticipation that I had seeing this movie. And I'm pretty sure we rewatched this movie together at some point, because I know this came out towards the end of our freshman year of college.
Yeah, we must have seen this movie together.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we shouldn't beat around the bush, I think, Chris. I think we should just sort of jump right into it. So why don't you give us the sort of overview of the movie up top?
Sure. All right, this is 2016's Captain America Civil War, directed by the Russo brothers. It is about a political involvement in the Avengers affair that causes a rift between Captain America and Iron Man. Now, this is an ensemble cast that features Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, Sebastian Stan, Jeremy Renner, Don Cheadle, Anthony Mackie, Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, and Daniel Bruhl. And we'll see some special first appearances by a few other actors, but we'll get into that in a bit.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, like you said, truly a stacked cast. Hard to understate, or hard to overstate rather, how big a deal this overall cast was. So, like, to be in a non-Avengers film. So, well, let's just sort of jump right in, Chris. I mean, Act 1 basically runs up until the arrest scene for Cap, Bucky, and Black Panther. So, what scenes do you want to start off with? What are the ones that stuck out to you?
I do want to talk about the chase scene, but we could probably talk about it towards the end of our Act 1 discussion. But I will say I did really like the opening. Maybe not the cold opening, but the actual opening with Crossbones.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really cool to see them kind of already in action, and you already got the sense, okay, this team has been working together for at least some time, and I feel like they wasted Crossbones, honestly. Like, he is he's a kind of cool villain, and they kind of just made him a generic guy who you don't really, you get the sense he's been doing things, but we don't really see it until now, and he's kind of on screen for only like maybe a few minutes at most. But I thought it was a really cool sequence just to see this iteration of the Avengers, how they operate together. Mm-hmm. And obviously, it leads to the whole Sokovia Accords. But what are your thoughts on that scene?
No, I think it's a great scene. I'm glad you brought it up, because I think you're right on multiple counts that I think Frank Grillo was wasted. I think he himself would agree with that, which is why he was a little bit salty about it, and he's now jumped ship and is going to be working at DCU with Mr. Gunn. But yeah, I think what really stuck out to me was that team dynamic, like you said. I think the fact that they are so polished as a team, it almost seems like kind of training for Wanda. Like, they're like sort of telling her about like how you have to always have sort of look over your shoulder, know what's going on. You see Cap sort of like directly leading them in terms of what they need to do. It's just, it's really nice to see them working as a team. Like, because we get obviously little flavors of that in Avengers, Age of Ultron, and then of course again in in Infinity War and an Endgame. But yeah, I think it was just really well done. I think it was interesting. One thing that I was thinking about was, because this isn't really like the full Avengers team. Like, are they still called the Avengers, this group, or are they just like, just sort of fighting together?
No, it's definitely the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you said, it's not the full team. Obviously, Tony is an active member, but a non-combatant is what he described himself later on. But,
right, an active non-combatant.
Yeah, but
I think it's just interesting that I think it really just does raise the broader question again of what is and isn't an Avengers level threat. Like, the fact that they were going after the biological weapon's pretty bad, but like, I don't know. I think that some of the stuff that's happened in the movies probably warrant full Avengers involvement versus like, a bioweapon. I don't know about you, but that's a whole separate conversation, I think.
I mean, the term Avengers level threat is only determined by the Sokovia Accords, right? So, up until this point, they could get involved in whatever, and they didn't send the full team, right? They only sent a portion of the team, so deemed it like, hey, we need just a few members. So
yeah, it's not like it's not just any few members though. This is like hard hitters. They got Captain America there. They got Black Widow. They got 2 original Avengers.
There's no Vision, so
yeah, there's no Vision.
Or Thor.
Thor. They don't know where Thor is, and Vision was too busy at home making paprikash, I guess.
Yeah,
but I think what was also interesting about this was I mean, I was thinking about this more because I think when I was watching it last night again, I was just like, I don't totally get the fact that like Rumlow's sort of suicide bombing and Wanda sort of throwing him up was like the inciting incident of the Sokovia Accords.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Like versus there's been like so many other serious things that they've had to deal with. But I was thinking more about it in terms of like, it was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. It's not like it's one. It's not like it was like the most egregious thing that's happened, because obviously they were trying to do the right thing. But like the fact that it was like a combination of things, like obviously New York and Sokovia and DC, and then obviously now Lagos was, I think it was just a combination of things. And it was just sort of the tipping point to really spur things into action. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's sort of dumb that they were getting on their case about that. Like a lot more people could have died. Obviously, the Wakandans dying was like a big thing, and we'll get to that. But like, yeah. Anyway, it's. I think it is a good scene to set it up, and I think like sort of as a counterbalance to like what Winter Soldier did, where it set up Cap being totally different in this sort of new era, like in the modern era. I think this really sets up like the team being different, and I think it works well. I mean, and I think another thing to that point is the action in this movie. I think we'll talk about it constantly, but the action in this movie is just so well done.
Yeah,
continually. The Russo brothers seem to know what they're doing, or their stunt coordinators and fight coordinators are just really like working just like top shelf stuff. Like it's really exciting the way that the camera moves, the way that they're like tracking the fights and stuff. Yeah, just really, really entertaining fights.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've done a phenomenal job on this film.
Yeah, no, really, really good stuff. Cool. Anything else on this scene? Otherwise, I'll jump into maybe talking about my scene.
Yeah, no, what stood out to you?
I think, I think the whole conversation scene that the team has at Avengers Campus after Ross introduces the Sokovia Accords. So I think like the combination of like the introduction to the Sokovia Accords and then like the discussion after the fact was what's really interesting. I mean, it's funny because I don't think, I mean, one, the MCU is like so big now that I don't know if you can sort of get all of these people into one room at the same time together anymore. But I think that sort of itself, it shouldn't be understated just how cool that is, that every single one of those Avengers, like most of the main characters of the MCU are in a single room at that point, as opposed to like in Endgame when like every character is together for the funeral. That's like obviously a huge deal, and they made a big deal out of it. Like, oh, it was like impossible to get everyone to come together for this one day, but we did it. So that in and of itself I thought was pretty cool. But I think the other part of it is just like how the argument that they are having about the Sokovia Accords really sort of underpins the entire movie, and they sort of explain what's going on. I mean, I think it's interesting because you get very clearly both sides of it. Like you get where Iron Man is coming from, and you get where Cap is coming from completely, and you get where the governments are coming from too. Like I totally get why the governments are upset about these things, but I think it was also totally, I think it's disingenuous of Ross to say that the Avengers don't care and they're unconcerned about what they're left behind. Because, I mean, it's unfair to say that because the villains are 100% not concerned about the casualties.
Yeah.
So, like, what are they just supposed to like stop them? And they're supposed to stop them while considering everything else that's going on around them? Like, I think that's just like an unfair ask, personally. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'll let you go because I think there's a lot more we can discuss about this scene. But what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree that this whole scene is what kind of is the underlying foundation of this movie.
Yeah.
And, like you said, we'll talk about more about this different sides and different perspectives later, because we have differing opinions. But yeah, it is a very good contrasting scene to the action sequence we see right before. And it's like a really, nice reminder of really the collateral that happens from all these fights that we don't necessarily see in the different movies.
Yeah, or think about really. So
yeah. And so, yeah, it really sets the stage for the philosophical differences in this movie, which like I said, I think it contrasts really well with all the action going on.
Yeah.
And I think it's also nice to, find a way to bring back Secretary Ross from The Incredible Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a nice little way to bring him back. And obviously, he ends up playing a bigger role in the MCU later on, which I would say a lot of MCU fans wouldn't have thought would happen after The Incredible Hulk kind of got, tucked away in a little corner. But
Right.
I thought this scene was like a great way to bring him back in to the fold as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was a nice little surprise to see him pop back up, just because I think a lot of characters from like the Incredible Hulk you feel like you're just never going to see again. Like even the new Captain America movie that we're getting now Ross and the leader. We're getting the guy that helped Hulk try and cure him,
Betty
Mr.
too,
Blue,
right?
What?
I think Betty's coming back too. Liv Tyler.
Is she actually coming back? I totally forgot about that. I don't even.
I think she is.
Is she? I don't know, but at least two out of like the four main characters from the Hulk movie are going to be in this Brave New World. So I think that's pretty exciting that they're finally, sort of acknowledging it again. But I think another thing that also I was thinking about, and this is very much like just sort of my own personal experience, because for our listeners at home, I used to be in Model UN in high school and in college. And as someone that has been in Model UN and you sort of know how the UN works, it's really funny because the UN is a pretty, I mean, like it's obviously nice and as a concept and like sort of very high-minded rhetoric, and people are talking about the world's problems. But in the reality, the UN is not super effective. Like they talk about things, but all they give is really recommendations for what countries should do. So it's just kind of funny that they're talking about how like sort of serious it is that the UN is saying something when in reality the UN is pretty ineffectual overall. So the fact that their oversight is left to a UN panel, I mean, my thought process was just that the Avengers would probably never be called on again. Like, just because it'd be a bunch of countries fighting about things like one another. Like, oh yeah, the US wants one thing, but like Russia wants another thing and China wants another thing. Like, I don't know how they would ever reconcile different countries' opinions about how to deal with things. So
it'd be pretty ineffective.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that the whole idea, I mean, the government oversight part, like, sure, but like, I think that the UN is probably the least effective.
Yeah, to get all these different countries to agree to send them on a specific mission or something. Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. And then who would be, if it's like a small, task force of people, who would be selected on the task force? Would then other countries feel left out? Like, oh, if you leave out, like, I don't know, Tonga versus like India gets a say over like some small, I don't know, Pacific Island country or like some random African country or South American country. Like, I think that it leads to a whole bunch of questions, which I think is totally not the point of the movie, but I'm just sort of spinning a web here. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting scene. And I think part of that also, like the fact that this scene is so delicious, really, I think that's the way to describe it, is that, again, you really get where each of them are coming from. Like the whole thing about Cap being distrustful of government, it comes directly from Winter Soldier. Like the fact that he was trusting of the government, and he literally finds out that there was like a shadow organization sort of running it from behind the scenes, and like he basically lost all of his trust for it. Versus Tony is coming from, extreme guilt. Like he's just been sort of like, he feels that he's responsible for a lot of what's been going on. Like the fact that Ultron, I mean, I think Ultron was really the big one, because this is obviously coming pretty soon after Age of Ultron, but really the guilt that is sort of driving him here to sign the Accords, like the fact that he feels he needs to be put in check, is sort of that driving motivation. And you get where it's coming from. And I think that they explain their sides of it really well.
Yeah.
And I think also the sort of split in terms of who sides with which side also makes a ton of sense. Like, I think, obviously Rhodey siding with the side of the government, that is a pretty no-brainer argument. Wanda obviously being distrustful of people controlling her, also makes sense.
Widow's the one that's interesting.
Widow's interesting. I mean, Widow sort of plays both sides, but we sort of get to that later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I mean, you also get where she's coming from too. Like the whole idea of like, you know, having one hand on the wheel versus two. But I think that she's maybe the most rational of the group in terms of like, she sort of sees where things are going, and she is sort of, I mean, I think Black Widow's playing it smartly in the fact that like, she doesn't want to be opposition to what's going on, but I think she realizes that like, it's maybe not the totally right thing. The fact that she's talking about one hand on the wheel, which is sort of an acknowledgement that they don't have both hands on the wheel by signing this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's pretty interesting overall. Sorry, I think we've talked about this scene quite a long time. Chris, do you have any other scenes that you want to discuss?
I think just real briefly, you know, we have our intro to Chadwick Boseman.
Yes.
As, you know, the future, or I guess the current Black Panther, T'Challa.
Well,
so that was
past. Now.
Yes.
Yeah. R.I.P.
Yes, R.I.P. But yeah, I think this was a huge intro for such a big and cultural character. Mm-hmm. You know, didn't, at least in his first scene in the UN hearing, didn't do a ton, but you know, we were introduced to him, and we could already see from the start his relationship with his father, T'Chaka. Then obviously the bombing occurs, and you see how kind of like vengeance consumes T'Challa. But yeah, I think it was a good intro. But the real intro for Black Panther that I would like to talk about is the chase scene between him, Winter Soldier, Captain America, and Falcon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think the whole the chase sequence, I mean, they were teasing a lot of it, but man, the chase sequence it's so thrilling watching it again, just thinking about it. I mean, firstly, you have like sort of the hand-to-hand fighting that starts off the whole sequence with Bucky and Cap first fighting the German military, you know, forces. Yeah, the German military, the German authorities or whatever. And then it sort of transitions into this chase sequence with Black Panther. And
it's such a smooth transition also, like from one location to the, it's so smooth.
No, it makes total sense why it's happening, why things are sort of progressing the way that they are. But everything about this whole sequence is just great. I mean, just to go back to Chadwick Boseman's introduction, like, I mean, I think it's been said enough, like sort of in the fan perspective, but Chadwick Boseman does such a good job as T'Challa. Like, he really does provide that air of regalness, and, you know, you feel that there's like, you know, the air sort of gets stiller around him. Like he just sort of, you know, captures all of that attention, and it really is a credit to his sort of acting decisions and how he plays it. You get his relationship with T'Chaka, King T'Chaka, so clearly and beautifully. It's just a really, really well played character that you're totally bought into from like the second that he's on screen. And it really is just a tragedy that we never got more of him. Like, we only really got one movie with him as his own character, and then he pops up in like obviously Endgame and Infinity War and stuff. But and then on the flip side of that, as Black Panther, oh man, he's so good as Black Panther, like the sort of stoic.
And the suit in this movie
is so good.
It's the best Black Panther suit.
Oh yeah, no. But this suit is so good. It's such a well-made concept, and I think this is like one of those ones where like people have the joke about like all the lines in the suits being like extra. I feel like the lines actually they look really good in this suit overall. It's so well done. But even the chase itself is also super well done. The music is really sort of thrilling. That's one thing we haven't talked about. The music is fine in this movie. It's sort of a continuation of like the Winter Soldier sort of style of music that Brian Tyler was working on. So in that sense, it sort of is connected, but it's well done, I would say. There's nothing offensive about it, but it's not like, you know, outstanding. But the chase itself is really, really interesting. Like, I know I remember watching all of these behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
It's obviously filmed a lot of it is filmed practically. Like the fact that they're running in a tunnel, they have like whatever those moving treadmills, I think is what they called it in the behind the scenes stuff.
Yep.
The whole thing about grabbing a motorcycle, which is apparently not CGI, which is insane.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, just so well done. Really thrilling. And this whole sequence is just a blast.
It is. It is. I mean, again, we talk about these action sequences. This is just a top tier MCU action sequence.
Yeah.
From top to bottom. And like you said, it just makes sense how things progress through the sequence.
No, absolutely. Just so well done. So well done. And it's a really thrilling way to end the act.
Yes.
So, I mean, Chris, do you have any other final thoughts on this act before we wrap it up and move into our transition here?
I'd say there is a roadie line that I think about or tend to use somewhat often.
Sure.
Which is like the congrats Cap, you're a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
Along with, boom, looking for this. But yeah, I don't know. It's just every now and then Don Cheadle as War Machine has like these lines that I just remember and like, oh yeah.
No, Don Cheadle's great, man. He has like, I think he's underrated in terms of how, sort of, I guess relevant he is to sort of the fabric of the MCU overall. Like, I mean, the fact that he was thrown into, Falcon and the Winter Soldier also just like, and it just sort of infuses it with a little bit of like, okay, yeah, this is MCU. It like really adds that sort of intertextuality between the movies and the TV shows later on. So yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. Don Cheadle's great. Everyone in this movie is great though. So
yep.
Cool. All right, Chris. So before we head on to Act 2, as our listeners obviously know, we can't just jump into from one act to another right away. So we got to transition. So here we're going to do trivia, Chris. So this is going to jump around a bit in terms of like, I guess, events that pop up, but we'll obviously discuss them later on. But because I believe you asked me last time for Ant-Man, we're jumping back now for Civil War. And this is a brand new phase here. So, resetting the stakes. Hopefully I can win this round because I lost phase 2, which is quite sad. But okay. Are you ready, Chris?
Let's do it.
Cool. So question 1. This movie's release year is tied to multiple significant milestones related to the comics. Can you name one of them?
2016?
Yes.
I don't think I can name it, but related to the comics?
I think you can. I feel like they're not too outlandish.
Is it some sort of like anniversary for like the Captain America character?
I cannot confirm or deny. Is that your guess?
I'm gonna guess that. Yeah, I'm gonna guess it's. I don't know a number, but I'm gonna guess it's some sort of anniversary for Captain America's creation or something like that.
Do you want to take a guess at the number?
Sure. Let's go with like 70 years.
You're honestly pretty close. I'll give it to you. So it was Captain America's 75th anniversary.
Oh wow! Okay.
I'll give you half points for that.
Yeah, half. Yeah.
I'll give you half points for that. But yeah, Captain America's 75th anniversary was the answer. There's 2 other ones. If you want to take a guess, I won't give any extra points here. But
is it like the 10-year anniversary of like the Civil War comic or something like that?
That's exactly right. Actually, it is this 10-year anniversary.
Oh, baby! I should just guess. I knew Civil War came out in like 2006.
Yeah,
I should have guessed that first. Okay.
Yeah, so that's one, and then there's a third one too.
I'm probably not gonna get the third one. Hit me with it.
It's Black Panther's 50th anniversary as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So honestly, pretty impressive that you got. I mean, one of them head on. One of them you were pretty close. So yeah.
I don't know why I didn't guess the Civil War one because I was like, I knew the year the comic came out.
Yeah. I think this is a recurring theme with you. Just got to go with your gut here, man.
Yeah.
All right. Second question. I think this is pretty, also not too bad. So this movie continues the tradition of the Russo brothers tying in their old television directorial roles into their MCU movies. In what scene does this tie-in appear? And I'm not talking about the cameo from Dean Pelton.
Oh, dang.
Because that'd be too easy.
He's from Community, right?
Yeah, he's from Community, but that's not the one I'm talking about. There's another tie-in that they have with one of their old, directorial moves.
Huh. Okay. I see. I'm not super familiar with like what they directed, other than like obviously the big Marvel franchises and at least the few episodes of the beginning of Community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's another famous TV show that they've worked on.
Can I ask for a hint? Like, does it? You can also deny me from this hint, but does it relate to a cameo? Or
it does not relate to a person's cameo. No.
Okay. It's I'm not gonna know. It's probably gonna be some sort of like, oh, they named this location or a product, or it's gonna be like a character's, like some sort of side character's name.
So I'll say that it's not naming something. It is a prop that appears in the movie in a pretty prominent scene.
Interesting. A prop. I don't know. I'm gonna guess it's something with the helicopter, but I have no idea.
Which helicopter? Like at the end when Tony's flying in it?
No. The one with Bucky and Steve.
Oh, okay. Well, that is incorrect. The answer was the airport scene is where the tie-in is. And actually, the other major show that the Russos were involved in was this tiny show called Arrested Development. So
that was, okay. I was like, I thought maybe Arrested might be it, but I was like, I'm not sure. Was it?
So they directed the pilot for Arrested Development. Okay. So it is the Bluth family logo appearing on
truck or something.
A vehicle. So I believe it was the staircase, kind of like how they had this, because that's like the vehicle that they drive in Arrested Development. So
I should have just guessed there was a banana stand somewhere that they blew up.
There's always money in the banana stand, Chris. But that is question 2.
Okay.
Question 3. So another major Avengers character from the comics almost made their debut in this movie as their superhero alter ego. Who was this person?
Like MCU character? Debut or like live action debut?
No, so the superhero alter ego was going to make their live action debut in this movie.
Okay. So my guess is that means that the character is in the movie, but they're obviously they aren't their superhero alter ego yet. Well, is the character in the movie, first of all, or is that gonna give things away?
No, they are not in this movie.
Oh, okay. Interesting. The comic book character. Oh, but have they been the MCU yet at this point? Like the human themselves?
I feel like I'm giving more away here than I should be, but yes, they have been in the MCU before.
Okay. I have no idea.
I mean, take a guess.
Yeah. I'm just trying to like cycle through the different franchises. Because I feel like it can't be... I don't think it's like an Iron Man character. I feel like it would make sense for it to be maybe like a Captain America character, but I don't know...
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know who it would be. Like, we get Zemo in this movie, but he's just not his comic look, but...
Yeah, but I mean, he is still Zemo, and that's not who I'm thinking of. But
yeah. Hold on,
because I also did say superhero alter ego. So
I don't think Thor, Incredible Hulk. We kind of already talked about. I don't really know what characters would be from there. I just don't know what other characters like. We have.
I'm gonna give you 10 seconds here, Chris. We got to move. We got to move this along.
Give me the L.
Give you the L. All right. They were thinking of introducing the Wasp in this movie.
Oh, yeah. I probably wouldn't have gotten that.
Yeah.
Ant-Man's a forgotten sort of franchise.
Well, just like he's sort of forgotten in this movie. Just like Tony says, who are you again?
Yeah.
But they were thinking of introducing the Wasp in this one too, but
Okay.
it was this sort of balance of like they didn't think that they were going to have anything to do in this film, so they just left him out. Another one that was, I mean, this is not a debut, but they were also thinking of apparently including Nick Fury here too.
See, Fury would have made more sense than like the Wasp.
Fury kind of
was in hiding,
but they also apparently one of the producers was like, "There's wouldn't really be anything for Fury to do." So
okay,
because he'd probably side with Cap. Let's be real. So
yeah.
Anyway, okay. Question 4. So Tom Holland's audition tape for Spider-Man, which we're going to talk about, his character popping up, was made with another actor with ties to Marvel. Name this character. Or name this actor, rather.
Well, I know he auditioned with RDJ and Chris Evans.
Yeah, well, that was the in-person audition. This was his audition tape. So
his audition tape. Oh, okay. Something that's tied to the MCU?
Yeah. And I will give you a hint here because I feel like this is pretty broad. This person's association is with Marvel Television.
Marvel TV. Okay. I feel like it's probably going to be some sort of like showrunner or producer.
It's not a showrunner or producer. I'll give you another hint that it was an actor.
Okay.
Because I said name this actor. It's not even a hint.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You said actor. Honestly, I'm just going to guess a British one. Just because Tom Holland is British. I'm just going to go with like Charlie Cox, but I don't think that's correct.
So close. But it was John Bernthal, the Punisher. So they were working on a movie together called The Pilgrimage. So Tom Holland made his audition tape with John Bernthal.
Okay.
Yeah. This is not going all that well for you, Chris. I got to say.
No, it is not.
But hopefully these questions aren't unfair, like the gigabytes in the Winter Soldier one. But anyway. Okay. Last question for you here. So this movie is the 4th MCU movie with a cold open so far. Name the other 3 MCU movies with cold opens. I think this one should be hopefully a gimme.
How many movies I have to think back through?
So it's 3. It's 3 other movies.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, but like, I'm trying to think through all the different MCU movies. Let's see. Is Avengers 1 one of them?
No.
Dang. Okay. It's so hard.
I'll give you 5 guesses here because this is for 3.
Yeah. Oh, The Dark World.
No.
You don't count The Dark World as a cold opening? Isn't it like the whole backstory?
Do they have a cold opening?
Isn't it like the backstory with like the Dark Elves versus the Asgardians?
I don't think that one's a cold opening. I think they played the Marvel logo before that.
Okay. This is going to be hard.
Because if I remember correctly, that was also the first movie that they had the new, or whatever, the second iteration of the MCU logo.
Oh, you're right. The fanfare stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, not Iron Man 1. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to go with Iron Man 1.
Also,
the title sequence is after, but I don't know about the Marvel logo.
No, they do have a Marvel Studios logo that plays before it. So
I meant like afterwards. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I wouldn't count Iron Man 1 either.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you have 2 more guesses here, so you could get 2/3 of the points. I'll give you a hint. This one was a recent movie in terms of recent to Civil War.
Recent to Civil War. Ant-Man? I don't think it's Ant-Man. I'm just gonna.
It is Ant-Man. Ant-Man's one.
Really?
Yeah, it opens at the Triskelion with.
Oh, you're right.
With Pym walking in on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
So that's one.
I told you, Ant-Man's such a forgotten franchise.
Yeah. So Ant-Man's one. You have one more shot here. You can get a 1/6 of a point.
Jeez. I'm definitely gonna get this wrong, but. Let me just throw out Guardians 1.
That's also right. Guardians also opens cold open. Yeah. So that's that. You got your 0.6 points here, Chris. Do you want to take a stab at what the third one is?
Sure. I'm going to guess it's not a phase 1.
I think a good guess.
Iron Man 3?
Yeah, that's it. Iron Man 3.
Dang.
Missed it by one, but yeah. Iron Man 3 was the last one with the cold open. So,
okay.
Yeah. All right there, Chris.
Not a great showing for me.
No, that is, 1.16 points for you on this round?
Well, it's a good sign for you.
Well, it's a good sign for me, but it also may be a bad sign that you're going to up the difficulty here. So, I don't know. I'm kind of worried about what you're going to pull out now for the next one. So, the next one is Doctor Strange, right? Or what is it?
Yes, it is Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm worried now because I feel like that movie is also kind of forgotten. But anyway,
it's a good movie though. I mean,
Doctor Strange is a great movie. Yeah,
yeah.
No. All of the little ones were really good too. So, okay, all right. Well, that was trivia. That was Act 2. So let's jump in now to Act 2. So, Chris, I'm gonna leave it with you again. Let's talk. I mean, Act 2 is super, super meaty. So, what are some scenes here that stood out to you?
All of these are super meaty, but
yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, even Act 3 this time. Actually, we have a fair bit to discuss. But
yeah. Well, because I mean, we'll talk about it. But Act 2, obviously, there is a huge fight scene at the airport.
Yeah,
that's probably, this is where the movie kind of gets its name from, or at least what people think about when they hear the movie.
Yeah,
that airport scene in Germany, that was, again, action, really good. We got to see Avenger on Avenger, and one of the more iconic scenes in MCU history so far.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think this is the way that is described as it is the splash page sort of the comics from the comic books. So definitely, I think that the airport scene stands out for sure. I mean, I feel like there's a lot to discuss from the airport scene. So I personally will want to get back to it when we can sort of end the act with it. I think for me, one of the whole sequences that stood out was the Bucky sort of interrogation and escape.
Yeah.
So I think all of that scene. So like we firstly get a real introduction to Zemo. We get Sebastian Stan's like sort of desperation to like try and avoid the situation. I thought it was kind of funny that like he pretty easily breaks out of the restraints that he's in when he's when he's arrested. So it just sort of shows how he's like he's basically submitted to being arrested and like being detained and held by the German authorities or whatever, the American authorities. It's not clear who, but it's I think that's super, super interesting. But then also the fact that he almost gets out of it. Like he almost is able to break out and like stop Zemo. But then obviously Zemo says his whole sequence of things to activate him, his sort of nascent sleeper cell Winter Soldier thing. So I thought that the whole sequence was really good. And then also everyone having their little moments to like try and fight with him too. Like Tony using like the little watch gauntlet thing. He uses a little bit of his Wing Chun, like as RDJ's sort of abilities. We got Black Panther fighting with him a little bit, or rather T'Challa. We see Black Widow fighting with him too. Cap obviously fights with him. And then of course it culminates with just an iconic scene in the MCU, the helicopter grabbing scene. Oh my God, the biceps, man.
And they tore his bicep on it, apparently.
He tore his bicep. Apparently he was like pumping a bunch of iron specifically for right before the scene so that it like looked extra like big. Yeah. I was joking about this with a friend after watching it, but like I think the fact that we don't get to see Chris Evans' rippling muscles anymore is why the MCU is now failing as a franchise. But I mean, man, great sequence overall.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I think people have brought this up, but not sure why Bucky just didn't kind of like cover his ears and make a ton of noise to block out whatever trigger words that Zemo was saying, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting. I mean, he maybe thought that he could break out in time or something. I don't know.
But yeah, I agree. Like, it's a very thrilling sequence. Again, at least to start off, it's not action. It's all just kind of like words and just the tension you feel. But then obviously it transitions and progresses into action, which, like we said, with the chase scene.
Yeah.
This movie does a really great job to show how things kind of progress and escalate. And I think it's another great example here.
For sure. For sure. And I mean, another part of this scene, which I also want to bring up, is the whole thing about like Tony giving the olive branch to Cap, almost getting him to sign the Accords. And I think very clearly here, he talks about him being driven by his guilt to sign it. Like the fact that he continued being Iron Man after he told Pepper that he would stop. The fact that he made mistakes like Ultron very clearly lays out the fact that like Tony was very much signing this out of his own personal guilt, which I thought was also kind of interesting. And he almost gets Cap to sort of agree. Almost does, until he slips the fact that he's basically, you know, holding Wanda captive at Avengers Compound.
Yeah.
So
close.
So close, but yet so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some scenes that stuck out to you here, Chris?
Yeah, besides that and the airport sequence, which we'll talk about, we finally get some resolution to the whole will they, won't they between Steve Rogers and Sharon Carter.
Oh my God, that whole sequence is hilarious.
Yeah, but the thing that I think stood out the most from that scene was the Bucky and Sam dynamic.
Oh yeah. Car. No, for sure. I think this movie really cements that dynamic and was like the clearest case of like these two need their sort of like own spin-off or something, which we get in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I think to that end, I guess say what you will about the show, because I know you don't love that show, but their interaction is definitely one of the best parts of that show.
Yeah.
So
it's that kind of like that buddy cop, but doesn't always see eye to eye sort of humor.
Yeah, for sure. They're almost like brothers, really, where they like kind of quarrel and squabble, but they have like a mutual respect for one another.
Yeah.
So, definitely a great sequence. Like him saying, "Can you move your seat forward?" No, and then them sort of like nodding, like hell yeah, like for their bro getting it with Sharon Carter.
Yeah,
but yeah, I do wish Sharon Carter got a little bit more. Like it's kind of a shame that she was just sort of relegated to like doing nothing. Though in this movie, she does help out a little bit. Like she actually is helping Cap on the side here.
And then they just do her so dirty in Falcon and Winter Soldier. But
yeah, well, I think she was misused in that show. But yeah, I mean, I think it's probably fair to like not beat around the bush. Let's just like talk about this airport scene. But actually, before the airport scene, let's talk about Spider-Man. Introduction of Spider-Man, because that's also super important before the airport sequence. So
yeah,
I know you were sort of teasing it earlier, like the fact that like there was all of these negotiations that went on, and like I remember the sort of fever pitch of like people speculating, oh man, are they actually gonna get Spider-Man to show up in this movie? Because obviously in the comics, Spider-Man is pivotal,
huge part,
huge part of the whole Civil War storyline. So the fact that we hear about like all of these like sort of rumors swirling around, and the fact that apparently he was in like a huge chunk of the script, and then they had to rewrite it because Marvel didn't know that they were going to get him until like the very last minute, and then they sort of sneak him in there. Man, I remember the hype around Spider-Man showing up, and then the first trailer, where he pops up and he said like when he calls Underoos, oh my God, like all of the. I feel like half of the YouTube trailer reaction community probably got their start from like just that reaction to Spider-Man popping up. So, man, what a great introduction. And it doesn't start off with like a super actiony way. It starts off with like them talking, like Tony and Peter talking, and like getting a sense of Peter's, you know, philosophy and his ideology about like why he is Spider-Man. Which is a great scene, and that was basically their audition scene, which you were sort of teasing at earlier in the trivia sequence. But I think a new piece of information that came out recently, which I don't know if you saw, was apparently the Russos wanted to cut this scene.
Yes, I did see that, and Downey kind of fought for it.
Yeah, I'm glad he did. I mean, it was a great instinct, and I mean, it really humanizes both of their characters. Like otherwise, you sort of come in without like any sort of like driving motivation for Peter. And you get this sort of like father-son relationship right from the get-go here, which I think really underpins the rest of the relationship throughout the MCU, basically. So,
yeah. And go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was it. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say in this scene also they do kind of tease a lot of things. So I mean, well, one in terms of a playful tease, like they are very meta about but they're very meta about that their awareness that they casted a much younger Aunt May and Marissa Tomei. So obviously they have a lot of a few jokes about how attractive she looks, and that's not what you think about when you think about an aunt. So they have that sort of joke going on, but then also kind of like dancing around Peter's origin story, which people know so well because of all the different Spider-Man movies or just different Spider-Man in the media. So, little snippets about Peter starting to talk about how he got his powers being cut off by Tony, and them saying with great power comes great responsibility, but without actually saying it that way. So it's a lot of like, we know Spider-Man. Here's kind of like the abridged version that we're going to paraphrase, or like just like what we're referring to, so we don't have to kind of go over it again. So it's nice, and I think eventually we see the payoff later on.
No, definitely. I mean, I think it's a really smart way to introduce the character without rehashing his origin story. And I think that they did that. I think they did a really good job just making it a conversation between Tony and Peter. I think it's also funny, the whole thing about like the jokes about Aunt May being younger. Apparently it's because Tony and Marissa Tomei have also acted together in a couple of movies. I think in Chaplin, and then like one other one is where I was reading that they'd work together as like basically partners. So, and I think they were also dating in real life too. So for what it's worth.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Or not obviously not at that time. They had dated rather is what I meant to say.
Yes.
But yeah, just a great sequence to set up Cap showing up. Obviously we also get a little bit of like, Ant-Man pops up too. I think it's interesting also just like thinking about Ant-Man and Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man was clearly like just added here because they could add Spider-Man here. Like he obviously has such a heavily deprioritized role, and he's really only in this sequence. But I feel like Ant-Man and Spider-Man, like, I don't know about you. I mean, it's nice to have them there, obviously, but like this movie could have also like very much done without them. Like they could have not been in this movie and it wouldn't have affected the movie overall, quite frankly.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, at least with Ant-Man, he actually has like a real like shining moment in the fight of becoming Giant Man, which does turn the tables a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think, overall, I agree with you. I don't think Ant-Man really serves too much of a purpose otherwise. So,
no, I mean, neither of them really do.
I don't disagree with you. But they had to introduce Spider-Man, so okay, we'll introduce him this way. And, they're just coming off of Ant-Man, so might as well include him.
Yeah.
Pay off that whole interaction between him and Falcon in Ant-Man 1. So,
no, for sure. I mean, like, I'm not knocking their
yeah. But I agree. In terms of storyline, they don't really add too much. Yeah,
it's just unfortunate, but in terms of that. But of course, their appearances within the fight itself they obviously add a lot to it. I mean, I don't know if there's really much to say about the fight itself other than the airport sequence, other than that it's also super well done.
Yeah.
One thing that I did want to talk about is, minor thing, but this is also the first movie on Disney Plus that we get up till this point, sort of chronologically, that's IMAX enhanced. Yeah. I'm glad you picked up on that. I mean, did you have any thoughts on that overall?
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know, if you don't have a TV that can fit those aspect ratios, then I don't know. The IMAX, the IMAX enhanced aspect ratio basically makes it's almost like the aspect ratio of like the Avengers almost. So any TV would fit this ratio. It's not like it's going to be like the square, what you would think of for like
I don't know, like a Chris Nolan movie or something, because all the Marvel movies are shot in like just sort of a taller, I think it's like a 1.91 by 1. So it's like almost like 16 by 9, basically. So like I think really any TV can handle IMAX enhanced. But I think it's cool. I think it's really cool that they have this as an option. So like people can sort of experience it that way. You get a little bit of that extra height. But yeah, I thought that was a neat little thing, and we'll obviously get a lot more of the IMAX enhanced stuff now going forward, because like Doctor Strange has the IMAX sequence, and all of that. Actually, even Guardians had it. I'm totally, I don't know why I didn't even think of that. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 has an IMAX enhanced sequence.
Oh,
or a couple of them.
Okay,
yeah, never mind. I don't know why I thought this was the first, but yeah, no, it like the sequence where Peter is holding like the Power Stone and stuff. That's an IMAX enhanced.
Got it.
Yeah. Anyway. But this one is, I mean, very, very much like they made it a big deal that like they use IMAX for this sequence in the airport sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think another part of the airport sequence overall for me is just that throughout even like all of like this fighting that's going on, we really do get the like a little piece of like interaction between characters, one another, which is why it like still feels grounded and it still feels engaging, because you're invested in all of the characters here, which is just like me hammering home the point of like the characters are so well developed here that you're like truly bought into every single one of them fighting here, versus in later Marvel movies where you just don't really have a sense of these characters. So yeah. Anything else that you want to talk about here, Chris, about the airport sequence? Because I have one more thing I want to discuss.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, we can literally spend an entire episode about talking about the airport sequence, but
for sure.
But yeah, I think high level, like I think everything I want to talk about it was covered. But yeah, what's your one?
The last thing, which I think is, I think you might agree, is the fact that like even the splash page fight that they have, where they're like sort of running up to each other and then they clash. I feel like it really stood out to me more this time, that it is just like in the most like dull background possible at the Leipzig airport, where it's just like gray everywhere, versus like having just like interesting colors.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel color grading too, but
yeah, the Marvel color grading thing too. It's interesting because I was reading up a bit more about this, like the whole idea of like why these movies are a bit grayer than and like other things, and I think it's because of, I mean, I think the Winter Soldier color grading was like a choice. Like they made it look that way for the reason. But I feel like this one was more out of necessity, being on a gray background. And I think I was reading it as because all of the different colors of the suits like are really hard to like put against like one specific color background. So it's like, because there's so much red, and then there's black, and then there's blue, and then there's green, like all of the different colors, like they don't really go well with one another. So you can't really like coordinate like a background to go with it. So the fact that they have the gray makes it neutral enough that everyone can sort of like quote unquote stand out.
Okay. That makes sense.
It is unfortunate. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Go sorry. Finish your thought.
No. I was just saying that I think it's just a shame that that's what we're left with, because I feel like there could be some more interesting things that could have happened with the background. I feel like there is some way that we could work around it, because I know, like, I mean, I think they sort of solved the problem in Endgame, where we have obviously all of these bajillion characters with different colors, outfits, but the lighting, I would say, in that movie is a lot more interesting, and the cinematography choice is more interesting than it is in Civil War. But yeah, that was what I was going to finish up with.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, you talk about the background, at least in certain scenes within that airport sequence, like when Tony is talking to Cap directly right before they fight. I don't know. It just seems like it's just very bad green screen behind them. Like, I don't know. For me, it just seemed very off. The background just seemed like it was very clearly a green screen to me. I don't know if you go back and watch it yourself, but I don't.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think to that point also, like, I think even the CG on, Tony's head and the suit is also like a little bit off. Like it almost seems like he's kind of like a floating head, just like it doesn't like totally match up. And I think this movie more than others is like where you really feel a sense of like the Iron Man suit being CG. This, and I would say Age of Ultron, really, at the end, where they feel like super duper CG rather than like something that feels like very practical or like heavy and metallic. I don't know.
I didn't have a problem with the suit, or at least not as much as you, but I definitely had a problem with the
yeah, I mean, I would say the Ultron suit was more problematic than this one. For
yeah,
what it's
that was
worth.
very, yeah.
But yeah, I totally get where you're coming from though with the whole green screen thing. I think like it's just, I mean, we do know that they shot a lot of this like outdoors and stuff in like Atlanta, but yeah, not particular. I mean, I think that we could go on about the cinematography here, but I think there's smarter minds than us that have discussed this at length. But
yes.
Anyway, I think we've gone on long enough on Act 2, Chris. Is there anything else you want to bring up here?
No, let's hit our transition.
Okay. So our transition now to Act 3. So I know normally we do a Stan Lee cameo, but Stan Lee really only cameos at the end of the movie. So we'll briefly discuss that after we finish Act 3. But I think, you know, one of the things that I remembered, Chris, that we were talking about a lot, and we sort of been tiptoeing around it, is like this whole like Cap versus Iron Man argument. And I know that was like a big thing that they leaned into in the marketing. And what I think works out well for our listeners here is that you and I actually are opposed on this, where one of us is on one side and one of us is on the other in terms of our sort of thought process here. So I thought it's something a little bit different. We can present our little cases, like just a 2-minute discussion about like why we think our side is the right side, either Team Cap or Team Iron Man. So, Chris, why don't you tell the listeners which side you're on, and I'll tell which side I'm on.
Sure. Well, also my arguments are going to have some caveats as time has gone on, but
yeah,
I think I've told you before, but I am Team Bucky because he did nothing wrong. He just wanted his plums. But if I have to pick a side,
Team Bucky, of course, I think we're both Team Bucky here. But no, we're between Team Cap and Team Iron
Man. Yeah. I've been on Team Iron Man, and I know by default, given that we are each on separate sides, you have been Team.
Yes, that leaves me on Team Cap. Which I feel like this viewing for me has cemented my position even more, and I feel like I have better arguments about it. But what in your 2 minutes, Chris? Why do you feel that Team Iron Man is the sort of right side here in this movie?
Well, okay. Well, again, let me start with a caveat saying, as the MCU is played on, it is very clear that Cap's side was the right one with Sokovia, the Sokovia Accords being repealed. And
yeah, I think it's fair to discuss it up until the context of Civil War. Like we don't have to talk about things after Civil War.
Okay, good. Yeah, because it made Team Iron Man age very poorly. But yeah, I think up until this point, I think having governing bodies is something that was very important to keep, like Ross says, this kind of unregulated team of enhanced individuals in check. At least I did, and I at the time agreed with having that sort of level of supervision. Obviously, a lot of the things that kind of went wrong in the MCU were a result of Tony and him feeling this guilt. But I do agree with him trying to make amends with that guilt by agreeing with some sort of legislation like this. I was anti-Cap or anti-Team Cap because he was breaking the law, technically. So, but yeah, it's just hard because a lot of my arguments kind of are not really valid anymore. So it's a little hard to think about in the context up to that point. But like I said, there is a law in place, and enough nations agreed on it. So just as a law-abiding citizen, Team Iron Man.
Gotcha. Is that it? That's your argument?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I feel like this whole idea of like law versus not law is, I think, a moot argument for me because I'm Team Cap, and I think the idea I think the fundamental idea is that this law shouldn't be here in the first place. This idea, and we sort of talk about it up top, the fact that, one, the UN is a pretty ineffectual body as it is. Like, they don't really have, like, if they were left under UN oversight, they would basically not get things done whatsoever. I think the point that Cap makes really sums up my idea beautifully, is like the idea of like, what if we need to go somewhere and they tell us we can't go to that place because these people have different agendas? What if something is, I mean, this is totally, pie in the sky, but like, what if, there's something going on with the Russians and the Russians are like, we'll handle it on our own. Don't let the Avengers come here. We will take care of it ourselves. That stops the Avengers from dealing with something that might be serious. But then what on the flip side, if they want to deal with something and like, what if they're being sent to something and the countries are telling them to do it and they don't think it's the right thing to do? Like, I don't know, what if they're sent to a conflict that the Avengers don't necessarily agree with dealing with and they're forced to do it because that's what the government is telling them to do? And it's like morally not right. And, people are dealing with things that, like, I don't know, what if like a dictator tells them, oh, I want you to go to this country and like deal with these people? And like, what would the Avengers do? Like, they have to follow the rule there. So I think in that sense, like, unfortunately, like they're sort of left to people's politics and their own agendas. And I think to that end, it's just unfortunate that the Avengers would be relegated to that. And I think even to that end, like the fact that at multiple points throughout this movie, Team Iron Man breaks with the Sokovia Accords because they realize that they are being hamstrung there and they need to do things like by themselves or privately. Like Black Panther is continually breaking the Sokovia Accord. Iron Man himself breaks the Sokovia Accords at the end when he wants to try and go help Cap in Siberia. He breaks the Accords because he realizes that he can't tell Ross or he can't do this thing without being arrested. And he literally tells Cap, like, just please don't tell Ross, otherwise I will be arrested. Yeah, I mean, I think at multiple points throughout this movie, we realize that, like, Team Iron Man, this position that they are being forced to be in is just sort of untenable. Like, even before the airport sequence, Tony has to fight back and forth with Ross to, like, not send random people to, like, go after Cap. Like, he has to, like, really pressure him to, like, do it himself. Otherwise, yeah, and he wasn't being given the authority to do so. So I think all of those reasons, personally for me, is why Team Cap is, I think, the right side. And like you said, I mean, not to really bring in the future MCU, but like you said, it really does play out in the future MCU that Team Cap ends up being the right decision. Yeah. But
I mean, I mean, also, like, it's a whole argument of you're put in a situation where your superiors are telling you to do something that you know or you don't think is right. Like, what do you do? Like, do you listen to your superiors or do you be insubordinate and do what you think is right?
Well, that even comes back from Captain America's founding. That comes back from him fighting Nazis, where it was maybe good people that were doing the wrong thing led by a madman, in this case Adolf Hitler. So it comes very much from the foundation of who Cap is, why he would never agree to the Sokovia Accords. But I think
it's ironic because he's a soldier.
I mean, he is a soldier, but like, I mean, but he starts to question it himself by the end of Winter Soldier because he realizes that he's being led astray by that concept. But I think it's funny because of that whole, the juxtaposition of him fighting like, I guess, Hydra / the Nazis when he basically is that sort of thing himself. But yeah, I think that's really interesting. The fact that I still understand where Tony is coming from, again, I think speaks to how well this movie is written. Not that I necessarily agree with his position, but I get where he's coming from. Yeah. But we'll leave it to our listeners. You can feel free to send in your thoughts about whether you're Team Cap or Team Iron Man. Do you think Chris or I are totally wrong or off the reservation here? But yeah, I thought this would just be an interesting side conversation here that we could have because and we can, I think with that, jump into Act 3, which I would say is a meatier Act 3 with like things to discuss than maybe some of the other movies that we've had to discuss Act 3s. I mean, obviously there is like the major fight at the end in Siberia, but are there other scenes that stuck out to you here, Chris?
I mean, the whole Siberia is basically all of Act 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not just the fight. So getting more, well, I guess we got the backstory about the other Winter Soldiers in Act 2, but getting the full context and the whole story of how the Winter Soldier was involved in Tony's parents' deaths is finally revealed here, which was teased in the Winter Soldier, or Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and then we've seen throughout this movie the different parts of that entire sequence of the Winter Soldier killing Howard and Maria Stark. So I think that whole kind of like conversation, that dialogue between Zemo and Tony and Steve and Bucky, and then actually showing, how Bucky killed his parents without, Tony clearly didn't know that. I thought that was a really, really powerful scene.
No, it is. I think it is really powerful. Like the music that they play behind Tony finding out about his parents being killed, I think was pretty heartbreaking. I think RDJ's acting here also is really good. Like you can see his anger and his pain at, Bucky seeing that piece or seeing that little piece. And it's also interesting because they sort of seed this scene, this 1991 scene throughout the movie. I mean, it starts off with it. Yeah. That's the cold open. They show it a little bit more in terms of like why. I mean, the first time we see it, we see that Bucky is getting some what looks like super soldier serum, basically the blue liquid, which has sort of been our tell of super soldier serum. We then find out in the next scene why they use it as super soldier serum, like you said, because we find out about all the Winter Soldiers. And then in this scene, we find out who exactly he was killing. And I think that sort of, it's like a mini mystery. It's not a huge mystery, but like it's set up nicely throughout the movie that like, and it sort of brings in the relevant information throughout, which I thought was quite well done. And I think is the underpinning for, like you said, the whole third act in terms of like that fight, because Tony comes there as a friend. He comes there to try and help out Cap and Bucky against Zemo because he realizes that he was wrong to like stop Cap. But once he sees what happens to his parents, he loses basically all objectivity and then just becomes like really just sort of driven by his own personal animus and hatred for Bucky, which is, and you totally get that because obviously it's his parents, it's his mom, it's his dad. So, I mean, and I think to that end, like that fight, I think it's just such an interesting final act fight because, I mean, the villain is very much Zemo, but they don't fight Zemo. The fight is between Cap and Iron Man at the end, which I thought was a really sort of bold choice to have them fight. And that was the sort of final fight of the movie. And it was really heartbreaking, honestly, to see that fight and see them sort of break up because you obviously are rooting for both of them. Yeah.
I mean, again, this is one of the few cases where in the MCU where the villain actually wins.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, he's probably one of the few, maybe only villains in the MCU that doesn't actually fight the heroes. And on top of that, actually wins. So,
yeah.
Like you said, it's a very bold choice, but it works out really, really well.
Yeah. And it's funny, one of the trivia questions that I was thinking of asking, which I didn't, was the fact that Zemo is the first non-enhanced individual as a villain in the MCU. So the fact that he's able to do all of this without any sort of powers of his own.
Like primary villain. A
primary villain. Yeah.
I was going to say like Alexander Pierce is not enhanced, but...
Yeah. I'm talking about like a primary villain. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously in the comics he is enhanced, but
yes, in the movie
they don't go down that route. Yeah.
But I think it's just so well done. The fight is really hard to see. I mean, it's again another really well shot action sequence, and it's also interesting. I mean, I think this movie very much like the other Iron Man appearances, like you see all of like the things that go wrong with the suit. And I feel like we've discussed this, but the fact that everything that goes wrong with the suit is always addressed in the next movie, how he deals with it. Like the fact that Ant-Man is running around inside his suit, like unplugging things, or the fact that parts of his suit get broken and he can't fix them in the middle of a fight. And all of that gets fixed basically with nanotechnology in the next time. So like anytime something gets broken off, then he just has more nanotech to fix it, or like there's no really connections of anything. So I thought that that's kind of cool to think about, like in hindsight, seeing where the suit sort of evolves.
Yeah. And again, like you said, it talks to Tony's innovative nature, always improving on the next iteration.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think the last thing which I wanted to discuss was really the ending, like the fact that there's like a little glimmer of hope there, like the letter that Cap sends to Tony, like the fact that like I know that we're not in like the best place right now, but that they're still sort of friends in the end, is like, look, if you need me, I'll still be there. But like obviously he is on the run, and it is kind of sad, but it ends with like a little glimmer of hope that, you know, like one day they could get back together. Obviously we know they will because of Avengers movies and stuff, but I thought it was a really well done ending, and it leaves things in sort of like a little gray place because obviously Tony is by himself and Cap is on the run. So yeah. Any other things you want to discuss in this act, Chris?
I mean, should we just talk about that final fight sequence itself?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, what else did you want to talk about that final fight sequence?
Well, obviously we get the cover page of the Civil War comic on the big screen here with Tony just shooting his repulsors at Cap's shield when they're maybe like a foot apart. That iconic shot, which I am so glad they included.
Yeah, no, it's a great shot.
But yeah, I mean, just like the way then when we literally see Tony trying to kill Bucky, which is very different than his character. But yeah, when Tony and Cap are falling down, they fall down on separate sides of the divider, obviously metaphorically because of the divide between them. But Tony lost with the high ground. He was on top of the divider.
Yeah, it's true. He did lose with the high ground. Wow.
So maybe that's only something Obi-Wan can do. But the whole shield handoff scene between Bucky and Steve when they're punching Iron Man and just alternating, tossing the shield to one another to, hit Iron Man, that was super smooth with just a CGI shield, which you probably wouldn't be able to really tell that was CGI. Oh, yeah.
No, it was a really good sort of like tag team fight between the two of them. I remember, I mean, they also teased that in the trailers, but yeah, no, just really good fight scene overall. Also the fact that I also like that whole thing about Tony analyzing Cap's fighting pattern.
That's what's next, yeah.
Yeah. The fact that he's like analyzing the fight patterns and then he then gets like a sort of analysis and then just like, let's kick his ass. One thing I did also want to discuss, which I didn't mention earlier from all the way back in Act 1, is that this movie actually kind of has like a mix of the Cap fighting style. So I remember in Winter Soldier, we were talking about how he becomes more like an MMA fighter, like much more nimble and like just moving around a lot more. And Avengers, he was very much like a boxer. And I think in this movie, he actually is a combination of both. And I think it works really, really well. Because like when he's fighting with Rumlow in the first act, he's kind of like a boxer. Later on in the movie, he like has like points where he's fighting more like an MMA fighter, like kind of like he was in Winter Soldier. Like, I mean, even later, like in the whole, when they're like trying to break into like the infectious disease place in Lagos, he's like fighting those people more like MMA. And then even here, he's like fighting kind of Tony more like a boxer, kind of. So I thought that was also kind of interesting that they sort of melded the two styles, and it works to great effect.
Yeah, I agree. And then the final, two things. One, we get our continuation of MCU paying homage to Star Wars with Bucky having his arm blown off.
Yes.
And then just, that final part of the fight that ends it with Cap seemingly, ripping off Tony's mask. And what you think he's going to do is like land that final blow of the shield to the face, and Tony, covers his face, and just instead Cap destroys the arc reactor. That was probably one of the more brutal Cap scenes I have witnessed in the entire MCU.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like it's kind of sad because he doesn't trust his friend anymore in that scene. Tony doesn't trust that Cap is gonna like hit him, even though I don't think Cap would actually ever hit Tony in his face. Like he was basically just trying to incapacitate Tony so that he wasn't gonna like, kill Bucky almost.
Yeah. The power of friendship, though.
Yeah, the power of friendship still shining through, even though it's been sort of destroyed here a little bit. But yeah, it's just such a great scene. And then even at the end, I will say briefly, the whole sequence of Black Panther talking with Zemo. Like we finally get Zemo's motivation as to why he's doing what he's doing. I mean, we get like a little glimpse that he's like Sokovian intelligence, and you could probably piece together why, but like we get the specific reason as to why. It was the fact that his wife and his kid were killed during the battle in Age of Ultron. But also the whole, conversation that him and Black Panther have, the fact that Black Panther's talking about how vengeance and anger has consumed Zemo, and he doesn't want to end up the same way. You get a little bit of, a development for Black Panther's character as well.
Yeah.
Leading into his own movies. So I thought that was also a really well done sequence between two fine actors. I mean, Daniel Bruhl and Chadwick Boseman are both great actors. So yeah. It's just a shame that we never got more of their interaction together, but great scene overall. And I think a great way to end the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts here, Chris?
No, I mean, I guess we still have some things to take care of before we fully wrap up, but
yes.
I think overall just really solid movie overall. Solid acts across the board.
Solid movie across the board. I think very consistently excellent movie throughout. The Russo brothers just sort of continuing their hot streak here from Winter Soldier. So just a great movie overall. But yeah, you were right that we do have a little bit of unfinished business because in this movie, our Stan Lee cameo, a pretty iconic Stan Lee cameo, I would say, comes right at the end. So this is, of course, the one where he is a FedEx driver delivering the package from Cap and refers to Tony as the ever famous Tony Stank. So, Chris, in our tier list here, from S to F tier, where are you going to put this one?
I think at a minimum, it's A. Personally, I think I would put it in an S tier, though.
I would also 100% agree. This is a firmly S tier cameo. Tony Stank is an all timer. So
yeah, and I don't know if you caught it or thought about it, but when what's his name, Don Cheadle, Rhodey, when Rhodey is kind of like making the jokes of like, yeah, that's him, Tony Stank, party of one by the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure if that was improv or not, but you can, when Tony laughs, I think that is a very genuine Downey laugh. Like, I don't think he was expecting that line and he genuinely found that funny.
Yeah, I could totally see that being improv. So, yeah. I mean, it's just a great sequence overall. Yeah, Tony Stank, man. That is definitely one of the most iconic Stan Lee cameos, I will say. So,
yes.
Yeah, great scene, and I think a great end to a great movie overall. So, Chris, I think it's time to get into our ratings here.
It is.
How would you rate this movie on our 1 to 5 scale here?
4.75.
4.75. That is a very strong rating, which I am inclined to agree with. I think that this is also a 4.75. I mean, what do you think is holding back that last quarter point for you?
It's hard to say. I mean, part of me is like, man, I really kind of wish I saw the comic Zemo a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, I guess, well, this is my personal scoring, so.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's subjective scoring, not right or wrong, but.
I mean, obviously, if we're going to call it Civil War, I would have maybe liked to see more heroes, but at the same time, I think that would have made the movie too crowded.
Yeah.
I think the part that slows down the movie a little bit for me that I don't necessarily care about as much is the Peggy funeral scene. But it does give us a really great, almost word for word dialogue from
comics,
the comics where Cap is saying, plant yourself like a tree, telling them to move. Except this time it's given from Sharon Carter.
Right.
But I don't know, that whole scene kind of slows down the movie a little bit for me, but I'd say that's kind of
totally fair.
Those are the things that are maybe holding it back a little bit, but I don't know. Every time I watch this movie, I'm like, it is crazy how we start off the movie with like this fight sequence with crossbones, and by the end of the movie, we are like at a Captain America versus Iron Man fight sequence. Like this movie covers so much ground, and it does it so well.
Oh, I agree. No, this movie it's insane how much ground it covers and how well it does everything. So just a really good job overall. Yeah, I mean, I totally hear you in terms of like the funeral scene sort of being a drag on the overall MCU. I think it was sort of their way to introduce Sharon Carter into the movie without it feeling like sort of forced. Though I think they could have also done that as her being a CIA agent coming in like during the whole UN bombing sequence. So I don't think they necessarily needed that to be her sort of intro in the movie. But I think I agree with you in terms of that slowing down that little section. But I think it's such a minor critique of an otherwise excellent movie that is, and I'm hammering this point home again, firmly rooted in character development and developing the MCU overall, and done in a way where you are invested in every single person's, their journey and like where they're sort of going to end up in this movie. So just a really strong showing, leaves things in a pretty, sad place going into Avengers Infinity War. And, just really, really well done movie that I was very happy to watch through again.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's I think it, Chris. I mean, this episode got a little bit lengthy, but there was a lot to discuss here. So I'm glad we could go through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, our next episode, like we were teasing during our trivia sequence, will be the next movie, Doctor Strange. So I know I'm looking forward to that one too, Chris. That one was a really fun watch.
I agree.
And definitely a nice little palate cleanser as well from Civil War, because this one's also like sort of standalone and sort of doing its own thing. So
yes.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that one. But do you have any final things to talk about, Chris, before we sort of bring it home, wrap it up?
No, I think I kind of covered it when I was talking about my scoring.
Yeah, no, for sure. Cool. So then just as our general wrap up, of course, that has been Captain America Civil War. If you like what you listen to and you want to hear more, please feel free to like and rate us on your podcasting platform of choice. We are, of course, the Ostrichtechnique podcast. And if you have any thoughts or further opinions or things you want to further the conversation with, you can reach out to us via our email address, which is ostrichtechnique@gmail.com. Am I missing anything there, Chris? I feel like I might be.
No, I think you're good.
I think that's it. Okay. Well, then, we'll see you guys next time on Doctor Strange. But I've been Ananth.
And I've been Chris.
And we'll see you guys then. Bye.
Thanks.